And you were actually on Saturday Night Live Korea
I
out
was.
there, which I didn't even know existed until we started researching this
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah. And so
That's
yeah,
crazy. Is that a big show out there?
yeah. At first, and this is another thing. Even the hip hop thing in Korea is kind of like, yeah, the hip hop thing had a big surge, and then it kind of like shriveled down a little bit, and then people just kept at it. All the pioneers, they kept at it, and with the help of other things, it got really big again. SNL, it started off as a really small show, really small show. Probably had like a super small budget. Everybody on the show when they like no one on the crew was super famous. They were struggling to get hosts and whatnot, and then they kept at it, and it became a huge show. And then they everybody was on it. From I hosted it twice, and I became a crew member as well. Yeah, and it's huge now. I think it has as much Facebook likes as the U.S. one.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
yeah.
So, being in South Korea, how is really the climate when it comes to North Korea?
I mean, I think over there, I mean, and I don't want to, speak for like a whole country as a whole, but just from what I've seen, my observation is I feel like people are so used to it because, it's been going on for so long. How long is the war? I think plus 60 years, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, because South Korea and North Korea have technically been at war
For like,
up
yeah.
until somewhat recently, which I guess they're finally starting to meet up.
Yeah, definitely. So, and so that's why it was so historic that they met up because, they haven't for 60 plus years, I think. And so every time, you'd hear in the news like, oh, threats and bombs and da-da-da, I feel like the people in the States go more crazy than the people in Korea. The people in Korea, they just go about their day like, oh, they're used to it. But then I see people like in the States, like they get booked for shows in South Korea, and they're like reluctant to come. Like, are you sure it's okay for me to go there with all the stuff that's going on with North Korea? So, I mean, that's from what I've seen. That's kind of like they're kind of used to it.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and at that time, there was the whole Cold War with Russia,
Yeah,
which is kind of a similar situation. You got a communist country and a democratic country. And I remember there was a real feeling that there might be a nuclear war at some point. There was even like TV shows about it, and there was like little drills in my elementary school and stuff like that. People, you have to be kind of my age to really remember that. But like, you got North Korea right over there, and they're testing nuclear weapons, and they're launching missiles into the ocean and stuff like that. Was there kind of a feeling of like, okay, Kim Jong-il, then Kim Jong-Un, not considered the most diplomatic guys? Was there really like a feeling of, okay, things may end at some point if things just kind of go crazy over there?
to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I always hope for peace. I always hope for that, that nothing goes wrong. So like I can't really be like, yo, like yeah, I really thought it was about to pop off at one point, but but you definitely see a lot of headlines and a lot of just kind of like a lot of just chit chat and a lot of just kind of not good things that are not good in terms of the war and nuclear tests and all this stuff. So I mean, I just kind of got used to it as well. Everybody's just kind of like and I ask people, I ask my friends, I ask people around me like, you think are we gonna be okay? And they're like, yeah, it's it's the same shit, So I'm like, oh, okay, and it kind of like reassures me that okay, maybe it's just another one of those false alarms.
Like, have you ever been in North Korea yourself?
No, I have not.
Okay. Is that pretty standard for South Koreans never going to North Korea?
Yeah, I don't even think South Koreans are allowed to go to North Korea.
Right, because you kind of have the line, and then you
Yeah,
just have
yeah.
the soldiers kind of staring at each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
Now, you also had the situation where your former president has been sentenced to prison.
Yeah. I mean,
She's been sentenced to 24 years in prison
yeah.
for bribery and coercion, abuse of power, and so forth.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in the U.S., when you think of like presidents that have been disgraced, you think of Nixon.
Yeah.
And Nixon basically just skirted out.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't even technically get impeached. He just kind of quit, and then he got pardoned right afterwards, and then he went on to live the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But we've never had a president that's actually been sentenced, and she's like in her 60s or something like that, right? So,
I mean,
it's pretty crazy.
it is. I mean, and it's. I feel like there's a lot of just kind of scandalous stuff that goes on between politicians, and when you're that high up and when you have that much power, I mean, I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, you're gonna abuse that power. If you can get away with it, so it's kind of like it all stands like, who's gonna be a good human being, who's gonna be, have dignity and do this with honor, or who's gonna just, abuse their power and just do what all these other people are doing. So I mean,
Right.
I can't really, I'm not a politician, I'm not a activist or anything like that, so I can't really say nothing like too crazy. But I just feel like I'm not too surprised that something like that happened.
Right, because I guess it had something to do with Samsung. It was like a deal she was trying to make with Samsung. Or something.
I don't know. There's just so many, and there's so many different kind of. So much information coming from all over the place. Like you don't know who has what type of agenda, what type of motive. So you don't know what's 100% fact and what's not. You can't believe everything the news says. You can't believe everything that comes out the politician's mouth. You can't. So it's kind of like you just gotta kind of make your own assessment, I guess.
I mean, seeing a former president of the country you're living in get sentenced to like the rest of her life in prison, does it kind of make you lose kind of faith in the political system over there?
No, I think it'd be the opposite. I think it'd be the opposite because it's kind of like it doesn't matter who you are if you're doing this illegal, scandalous stuff, shady stuff. It doesn't matter who you are, if you're the president or if you're someone else. It's like it doesn't matter how much power you have. Like you're gonna get what's coming to you basically. So I think it's sort of the opposite.
Okay, I feel you. Because otherwise, I mean, you never see anyone really getting sentenced in China, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the political party pretty much controls everything.
Yeah.
There's no free votes. There's no freedom of the press.
Oh
and stuff like that.
definitely. There's no Twitter, no IG, nothing there over there. Yeah.
No, nothing.